Easiest way to ask a closed question in a sale, which is where everyone always chokes, is simply asking, would it be totally crazy for us to move forward today? Or would you be totally opposed to us moving forward today? Or would you be totally opposed to us moving forward at the end of this call? Or would you be totally opposed to moving forward, period? When you ask it like that, it's not saying, hey, do you want to sign up? Or hey, do you want to pay? Or hey, do you want to buy right now? We're just saying, would you be opposed to moving forward? And then the person can feel safe and say, well, I'm not opposed to moving forward. And you're like, awesome. Boom, you get it, and you can move forward with the paperwork. And that's one of the easiest ways to ask for a sale that's low pressure.
Yeah, sorry, solar, not interested.
Oh, yeah, I can appreciate that. And to be frank, it hasn't been worth being interested in. Too expensive, takes forever to get your money back, doesn't even save you that much. Now, our clients would say, like Bill over there, our clients would say, this is a bit different. And it may not even be for you, Travis. But instead of you having to buy like a $30,000 solar system panel, like a lot of your neighbors did several years ago, we're able to offer you the electricity it produces. And that electricity, it just costs far less than if you were to buy it from like Duke Energy. Now, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because I don't even know if that would work for you. I'd have to know more about like your usage. How long have you been in the home using? And then they're just right into it. Now, do we know we can help them more than the power companies? Yes. In the first 5 seconds, does he know that? No. We have zero trust or credibility. So we have to get him to let his guard down. And then by the end of that conversation, we build a gap. And then by the end, Travis is very happy that he decided that solar's way better for him than paying the rate hikes.
The most used close that I use in transactional selling is the reason close and then followed by a best case, worst case. Usually you get to a point in the sale where you need to transition. And so you're like, hey, the reason we have these kind of results, the reason we have this kind of success is because, and then you have some sort of reason. Now that reason can be whatever you want it to be. And it's because we're unique. It's because our product works. It's because of this method. The point is that whatever you say the reason is, people's mind will believe because they believe whatever happens because. After I have that, that's usually when you make the first ask. And then if the person doesn't immediately say yes, I say, hey, well, let's just look best case, worst case, right? Best case scenario, we change your life, everything's amazing. Worst case, you get all the service for us for free and you still lose nothing besides the 6 weeks.
How can you avoid being seen as pushy when you're talking to your prospects? According to behavioral science, within the first 7 to 12 seconds of every sales call, your prospects are subconsciously picking up verbal and nonverbal cues from you that triggers their brain to do one of two things. If you come across aggressive or needy and attached, it triggers their brain to go into what we call fight or flight mode, where they try to get rid of you fast and say things like, I'm too busy now, can you call me back later? Or, we're good, or we don't need it. The walls of resistance come up and the sale is pretty much over. Or if you come across neutral, unbiased, and detached, and you know the right questions to ask, it triggers their brain to become curious enough that they feel like they want to engage because you might have something that's very important to them. So we have to come across detached from the expectations of making the sale, really focus on whether there's even a sale to be made in the first place, whether or not they have problems that you can actually help them solve.
So anything you want in 5 steps. The closer framework. C, clarify why the person is there. Why did they even reach out to you? L, label them with a problem that you plan to solve. O, overview their past experiences or past pains that they've gone through trying to solve this exact same problem. S, sell them the vacation. So you want to sell them what they're going to experience, what it's going to be like when they experience the result of what you're going to get them, not the way that you're going to get them there. E, explaining away their concerns. So if they're worried or they're hesitating or they're not sure, explaining away their concerns so you can move them towards the finish line. And finally, R is you want to reinforce the decision that they just made so that they feel good about it, and then you start the relationship off on the right foot. That's the closer framework.
You make a cold call and the prospect says within the first 15 seconds,
hey, we're good. We're happy with the way things are.
Well, what do? You're going to throw out a rebuttal?
Oh, just give me 2 minutes of your time and I can show you how we can save money.
Click. It's over. So you're immediately going to agree with them like, oh, yeah, not a problem, John. And just so you're aware, I'm not quite sure we could even help you yet. We'd have to know more about what you're using in XYZ area and the results you're getting from that compared to maybe where you're wanting to be, just to see if we can even do anything for you because maybe you don't even need us. Are you opposed to having a brief conversation around that? Why would I say, I'm not quite sure we could even help you yet? Why wouldn't I be more assumptive? Say,
we can definitely help you.
They deal with salespeople every single day that say they can help them. So you don't sound any different than anybody else. So what you want to first do is you want to learn how to disarm the prospect where they let their guard down and want to have a two-way conversation. Do that next time and you're going to notice you're going to close a lot more deals than you are now.
Some of you guys may remember that they had a warning label at the end of their advertisements that said, if an erection lasts longer than 4 hours, must contact a medical professional, right? And so the beauty is there was a genuine risk, but in making the risk, they amplified the power of the product. Every single guy heard that warning and was like, I could have an erection for 4 hours. Sign me up, right? And so it'd be like the same thing as saying like, warning. When you sign up and start working with Gym Launch, you're going to massively increase your tax burden. So like, we are not liable for the amount of taxes that you're going to have to pay as a result of the amount of money we're going to make. It's the negative consequence of the positive that amplifies the believability of the statement. If we're warning people that the extreme adverse effects of the result that we're promising in an extreme fashion, then it makes the underlying believability of whether or not they're going to achieve it seem assumed. This is one of my favorite persuasion tactics.
After 20 or 30 seconds, they say,
You know what? I know we responded to the ad, but we're pretty happy with the company we use. I don't think we're interested.
now just so you're aware, this is a common knee-jerk reaction from a prospect to a salesperson just trying to get rid of you. If you start to argue with them,
But hey, if you could just give me 2 minutes of your time, sir, I know we can.
done. It's over. The first thing you have to do is what? Learn how to disarm them.
We're pretty happy with the current company that we use.
Yeah, that's not a problem. And just so you're aware, Matt, I'm not sure we could even, help yet. We'd have to understand a bit more about what you're using for X, Y, Z. And I would say the results you're getting from that, just to see if we could even help you, because maybe you're better off staying with the company you already have. Are you opposed to having a conversation around that possibly?
No, I'm not.
Well, let's do this. I should probably ask you, who do you use now for your... So you start off by disarming the prospect by just agreeing with them, which removes the sales resistance.
In order to get engaged lead, which is people who show interest in the stuff that you have to sell, then it means you have to show people who are not interested and get them interested. And so the question is, what is that bridge that goes between not interested and interested? You give them value. And you give them value, ideally, around a problem that you want to solve for them. Now, how you define the problem that you're going to solve gets into the nuance of how you create a lead magnet or offer. But you give yourself the opportunity to solve their problem, ideally for very low risk, which is either very cheap or nothing at all. And then by doing that, you earn the most valuable thing you can have in business, which is trust. And then at that point, that's when the real conversation begins, and that's where monetization starts. When someone says, I need to think about it, or I need some more time to make the decision, I say, listen, it doesn't take time to make decisions, it takes information. And the problem is we think that the longer we wait, the more information we're going to have. But I'm the only source of information that you have to make this decision. So what are your main concerns? And then we can walk through them.
Yeah, that's not bad from Alex. I'd probably do it a little bit differently. Like if Alex was doing that on the phone with somebody on Zoom, he's probably going to come across more as an authority figure that he could get away with that more than like one of his salespeople could. So what I want to do is I want to find out what their concern is, like he's doing it. We just go a different angle. So I would just agree with like, yeah, that's not a problem. I guess what was it that you were maybe wanting to go over in your mind so I know what questions you might have when we talk again? See, and I do that in like a confused tone, like I'm not understanding. Usually they'll be like, oh, well, it's kind of a big decision. I just really need to know, I just need to see if I have the money for it. Well, now I know it's a money objection, and then I'm there to help them overcome it.
If I were a personal trainer and I wanted to get new clients and I had no money, every single person can do cold DMs to 100 people a day and get new business. And you will fail and you will over time get better at it because you have to learn what's the first message you want to send. I'll give you the easiest one. Hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you know anybody who'd be interested in doing that thing? And then you add some sort of offer and I'm doing it for free and I guarantee this. And you're giving the offer to somebody and you're not soliciting them, you're soliciting a friend. Make a post, see who likes it of your friends and then message their friends as well in a three-way message because in that way it gets out of the request box and gets into the inbox. And they have to usually respond because there is some social capital there. If you do 100 messages a day, you'll have more business than you know what to do with and not enough time to do more of the DMs.
The customer walks in, what's the first question 99.9% of salespeople ask? Hey, welcome into the store today. How can I help you? What do 99% of people say to that? Oh, we're just looking. If I'm in that situation, I want to use that to my advantage and their advantage, and I actually want to tell them that objection in my first opening question. So I might say, hey, welcome into the store today. Are you guys just out looking? Now, see, they're like, yeah, we are. Oh, okay. And do you know what you're looking for? Now notice how I slowed down that question. Instead of saying, do you know what you're looking for? Knee-jerk question, knee-jerk reaction. We say, oh, and do you know what you're looking for? Like I'm curious, okay? Like I'm confused. And it causes them to think deeper about what I'm asking, not just in one ear, out the other type of things. You have to learn how to verbal pace. We call that verbal pacing, like pacing out the question and slowing down and using verbal pauses
in between the question.
If you want to get better at sales and you're the sole owner of your business, what I recommend doing is recording all of the calls you have. The first and cheapest thing you can do is listen to the ones that went well and listen to the ones that didn't, and then try and see the differences between the two. I think the better thing to do is to give those recordings of your sales calls to somebody who is a really good closer, and then ask them to give you feedback on the calls, and be specific about how you want them to give feedback. Just say, hey, if I could improve one or two things on the call, what would you tell me to do? Go do those things and come back and send them the next recording. So what you're doing is you're basically recreating a sales manager, salesman relationship with somebody outside of your organization. And if you want, trade with that person to something that you're better than them at.
You know, I'm just really busy today. Can you send me some information in my email and I'll get back to you? Yeah, that's not a problem. Just so I can put together the best information for you. What exactly are you looking for in that? Well, I'm looking to see how your XYZ product can A, B, and C. Ah, okay, that makes more sense. Who do you use now for? And then you go right into your first situation questions. Now, after you've taken them through that engagement stage, towards the end of the conversation, you're gonna bring up this question. Okay, so good first call, Jane, that really gives me a better understanding of what's going on. Now, what I can do if you'd like is I can send you more information, more details about how we could solve X and Y and Z challenge that you brought up to me. Now, let's suppose that you and the firm go through that information and it fits into what you're looking for. What would you want the next step to be at that point? Never send information for a prospect without first finding out if this is a serious person wanting to change your situation.
One of my favorite ways to close someone is to just say whatever thing they said they're struggling with that they're not sure about, you just say, hey, in a hypothetical world where that didn't exist, would you say yes? And whatever it is, if that thing doesn't exist and they say sure, then you literally now have only one thing you need to solve to get the sale, right? So if you're tired of having people give you obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, you just say, hey, if you had the time, would you do it? And if they say yes, then it's like, cool, let's figure out how to get you the time, right? And then you can solve one problem and make the deal. And the same thing is, hey, if your wife were on board, would you do it? Okay, cool. Then what would we need to do to figure out so she wouldn't be worried about it, right? And so whatever the thing is, you just say, hey, in a hypothetical world where that didn't exist, would you do it? Cool. And then you can close the one isolated variable to get the deal done. The first person you always have to sell is yourself, and most people actually aren't sold. If I were to just judge them based on how much they believe in the product, that would map significantly more to what their closing percentage was more than anything else. Conviction itself is not binary. It's not do you believe or do you not believe. It's how much do you believe. But the cool thing is that because conviction is measurable and it is changeable, it's also something that you can work on and you can outwork your self-doubt.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Going.
Good. You must be the queen of the castle.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Pleasure. I'll be super quick. I'm Devin. I manage your neighborhood with Moxie. Not important right now. What is important, just yesterday I got a call from some neighbors. They were letting me know that apparently there is a serial killer on the loose that was in the neighborhood. Yeah. He was going around mass murder everybody's ants and spiders.
Oh, stop. Okay.
Yeah. Now, you obviously caught on. It's me. I'm the mass murderer. So, who is currently doing your killings?
So this is a really good example of a pattern interrupt, especially door to door when there's a lot going in the prospect's mind because they don't know who you are. You're like a stranger. Fight or flight mode's being triggered real quick. If you can do a pattern interrupt like this,
Who's the one that does your bug killing?
causes the prospect to become curious enough where they want to engage. I think that's actually hilarious. So well done to him. I actually like that. That was funny.
If I'm trying to get my wife to go where I want to go to dinner, because I want to go to Cheesecake Factory, the finest establishment in the land, if I say, hey, babe, you want to go to Cheesecake Factory? She might be like, well, no, I don't want to go to Cheesecake Factory. Now, if I switch that and I said, babe, would you be against going to Cheesecake Factory? She's like, well, I'm not against going to Cheesecake Factory. And I'm like, great, let's go. Someone says that they have to talk to their business partner, or they have to talk to their husband, or they have to talk to their wife. You say, well, what would happen if they said no? If they say, well, I would do it anyways, then boom, you close the sale. Let's say that for some reason they say like, oh, I left the car that I wanted to use or whatever. No problem. Do you have your phone on you? Cool. Why don't you pull up your banking app, go to your statements, and then we can see your account number on the top right and we can write that down and we can do an ACH transaction. Someone says, I need to think about it or I need some more time to make the decision. I say, listen, it doesn't take time to make decisions, it takes information. And the problem is we think that the longer we wait, the more information we're going to have. But I'm the only source of information that you have to make this decision. So what are your main concerns?